From Wisconsin and the chair of the Fed for their comments about insurance, and I'll probably disagree with many other things. Thank you once again for returning, where you will be independent and accountable. Tall and short, the Fed plays an interesting role. First, as to cryptocurrencies, you and we should have the courage to ban them. As an investment, they're an investment with no investor protection. And they take the animal spirits, the willingness to invest, divert them from the real economy, and instead engage in what is basically gambling. Many jurisdictions support gambling only if there is local taxation, but cryptocurrencies don't pay gambling taxes. As a medium of exchange, cryptocurrencies offer no advantages over regular currencies unless you're a terrorist, a narcotics dealer, or a tax evader. There is no positive role for us for cryptocurrencies. A lot of discussion in here about who deserves credit for the good economy. Let me point out, since Dodd-Frank, 17 million jobs have been created, 15 million of them under Obama, 2 million under Trump. That's 15 million, 2 million. That's the right ratio. Now, the Trump administration claims credit for the last 3 months of the Obama presidency, but Obama was actually president until January 2017, but his policies remained in force all through 2017. Dodd-Frank, Janet Yellen's balance sheet, and Obama tax policies were in force until the beginning of this year. And in fact, the Fed policies and the securities regulation remain pretty much unchanged since the Obama administration. The chairman of this committee urges you to abandon all of the unconventional tools while taking credit for the good economy that is in part a result of your unconventional tools. I would say keep your balance sheet as big as it was when we achieved the economic growth that is so good that Democrats and Republicans are fighting over who gets credit. And certainly do not cut your balance sheet until Chairman Hensarling tells you how he's going to increase taxes to replace the $80 billion of profit you gave us last year because you had a big balance sheet. The chair talks about the inflation rate, the chair of this committee. You ought to have a goal of 2.5%, not 2%. The law that we passed in 1978 draws a 3% objective or maximum for inflation and for unemployment. So unemployment is still too high and inflation is too low, and if we have a looser economic policy, maybe we'll get somewhat higher inflation and the labor shortage necessary to increase wages. He puts forward the idea that somebody would save for their daughter's college education by putting money aside, but in a mattress where its value would decline by 30% by the time his young girl got to college. I'd say if you're smart enough to save for college education once your daughter is born, you're probably smart enough to invest the money in something that grows faster than inflation. As to trade, my party suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, which is whatever Trump does, we have to be the opposite. The fact is, China launched this trade war against us in the year 2000, right after 2/3 of Democrats voted against giving China most favored nation status. We were right then. We shouldn't change now. If there are those who say that trade deficits don't have a harm, they lead to hollowed-out manufacturing, which leads to manufacturing towns where you have opioids, alcoholism, and votes for Donald Trump, 3 terrible scourges that hit the Midwest. As to your testimony, Mr. Chairman, you say that wages are growing a little faster than they did a few years ago. That's nominal wages. Real wages, if anything, have stagnated over the last year, depending upon your measure of inflation. One more reason for a looser monetary policy, faster economic growth. And believe it or not, I have a question. That is, LIBOR was tainted by a scandal. You've got the Alternative Reference Rates Committee. Most of the LIBOR referenced debt is derivatives, but what really matters to people is mortgages. And what are you going to do to make sure that the new benchmark doesn't increase mortgage bargaining costs or disrupt the mortgage market?
So
that's the one question.
That's great. That's a great question. So You're right. Many mortgages reference LIBOR. LIBOR is a rate that's under a lot of pressure. It may not be there in 3 or 4 years, so there's a big move to find a good backup. We've identified a backup, and it's not designed to represent an increase at all in people's mortgage costs. Rather, it's designed to represent just a more sustainable rate that'll always be there and less volatile and more predictable, more reliable.
And it'll be as good for mortgages as it is for derivatives.
Yes.
Good.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now